on, Bahuga Wagats.
Yeah, I don't know why. weird because my boobs got in the way when I was typing. Must be. Well, what's up, nerds? It's Monday. And for some reason, the stream in YouTube says we start at 3 o'clock, which is not accurate. And it's not the right time. I put in 2 o'clock. So I don't know. I don't know why it's doing that. Very awkward and very weird that it would say 3 o'clock when I put in 2 o'clock. I factually did put in 2 o'clock, so I don't know what's going on. Why is doing that, and we may never know. We may never know. I went in and I tried to change it, and it basically won't let me change it. You know what I mean? So that's that. It's just like, hey, that's what you get. You get what you get. We have to turn the volume down if I'm going to review and see if this is actually working. Yeah, it's Munderd the Tenard of Marchard. One day after daylight savings time. I was trying to see how this shows up on my cell phone. If I was a cell phone, how does it show up? And I look a little blown out, so I'm going to turn the light down. Oh, wait, hold on. You know what we can do? We can do it on here. Let's do it. I think my contrast is up too high. Maybe my saturation was too high. I think that's what it was. And then we go down to this one. Yeah. And then I think I changed this light up here. I did. There. That light up there was too powerful because I changed it because I was doing something. What was I doing? What was I doing? Oh, I was smashing bananas with my bare feet for my OnlyFans. You know how it is around here, right? Yeah, I know. I don't actually have an OnlyFans. Sorry, guys and girls. Actually, mostly guys. Sorry, guys, for not having an OnlyFans. I know you want to see it. I know you want to see it, but we're gonna need a big contract ahead of time before we go launching that nonsense. You know what I mean? Just because of all the abortions that we're gonna have to pay for, we're gonna need a lot of money ahead of time. Anyhow, how is everybody doing? I feel like I'm out of my mind because daylight savings came out of nowhere, and yeah, everything's just off now. All the time, whatever the time is, it's off. The time is just so off. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Daylight savings is stupid, and I hate it so much. And I wish we would just stop it. And, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring up daylight savings time is because, first off, it's salient, right? Like, it just happened. It just happened yesterday. If you woke up and you're like, what? WT farts, what the fuck is going on out here? You're like, what's going on out here? Why is the sun out? I'm normally up before the sun is out, or whatever the hell happened to you. I don't know what happened to you. What happened? Was the sun not out? I don't know. Did we move the clock forward? Did we move the clock back? I don't know. I don't even know anymore. It's hard to tell. It says it's 2:11 right now, but I scheduled the stream at 2 o'clock, and it just put itself at 3 o'clock. So I don't know. Even YouTube doesn't know what the fuck's going on. You know what I mean? Like, the daylight savings time is messing with this sentient computer program that runs all of these YouTube videos into your pie hole brain, and it can't even figure out what's going on. And so here we are at whatever time it is right now, and I immediately have been distracted by a widget off of the desk. And I don't even remember what I was talking about now anymore. Daylight savings time. Oh, it's the worst. It's the pits. I hate it so much. You're like, we fall back in the fall. So you get an extra hour of sleep in the fall. And so you're like, this is good. But then the darkness sets in. Recently I saw recently somebody sent me a video, as it were, a video. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Of a comedian that was talking about how they grew up in San Diego and then had relocated to New York City. New York City, and was like, yeah, he'd basically heard of seasonal affective disorder, not knowing that it was actually a real thing until they had moved to New York. And by the way, New York is south of where I live. I live north. I live more norther. Let's see what it is on the parallel here. Longitude. Is it latitude? No, it's latitude. Interactive equivalent latitude map. Here we go. Push it. It's not interactive. Oh, it's interactive. What the fuck just happened? Oh, it slides. Oh, it slides across. Okay, that's how that works, but it's not giving me the latitude unless I So New York is on the 40th parallel, right? Somewhere around there. And where I live is on like the 45th, 48th, 48th, 9th, 49th parallel. So I'm much more north of New York. And that comedian had been affected by seasonal affective disorder. And that basically just means the fucking darkness kicks in. The darkness kicks in. Yeah, Witchy Cat says 49th parallel here. It's literally my street address. Yeah, you're just east of me. So let's just say 49th parallel for the argument's sake. And then I guess New York City is what, on the 40th parallel? Parallel is New York City on 40th parallel. Okay, so yeah, we'd figured it out from that crappy map, and then eventually just looked it up. The exact coordinates of New York City are 40.7128 north. So they're in between 40 and 41. So we're like 9 degrees parallel more north than New York City. And the darkness here sets in. And you get seasonal affective disorder, which means you get essentially like you get depressed because the sun's not out enough. Yeah, and that's the reality. What parallel am I on? MA Connecticut. Massachusetts. Connecticut. Connecticut. Etude Yeah. 42nd. I believe you're on the 42nd parallel, my friend. Connecticut and Massachusetts is on the 42nd parallel. Same as Mongolia. Same as Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, parts of Russia, parts Georgia, Turkey, Bulgaria, Kosovo, Serbia, Montenegro, parts of Italy, parts of France, parts of Spain. I think I want to move to Spain, guys. Is that viable at this point? Are you allowed to move to Spain? I liked it in Spain. I want to move to Spain. Is that cool? Is that cool with you guys? Move to Spain, start an OnlyFans for the boys. Oh shit, something just beeped at me. Something just beeped at me computer-wise. Oh, it's that one. I karate kicked the other computer. This is what happens sometimes. Sometimes you accidentally... Sometimes you accidentally karate kick the other computer, and it beeps at you, and then turns on. And it's like, I'm awake for you, sir. And you're like, I don't need your services. Go back to sleep. What are these emails coming in? I got some bullshit emails coming in. Oh, apparently one from my financial advisor says the market is wild. Oh, cool. Okay. I recently heard a story. That Walgreens agrees agrees to be acquired by the private equity firm of, what's that private equity? Sycamore Partners. And it just shows that we're on this insane spiral of private equity just buying everything in the United States. Absolutely wild stuff. Which immediately, like the some of the market analysts. Some of the market analysis essentially was breaking down that, like, the biggest part, what's great about the private equity acquiring Walgreens is that they'll be able to essentially close all of the locations that they feel that the lease agreement is not in their favor. So they're just going to close all of the locations where they feel like, the lease is too much or whatever. So whatever financial obligation that the previous entity was beholden to, which essentially like was probably just a payoff to another private equity, essentially, they'll just be able to break all of those leases and shut all of those stores. And there's no real follow-up because they'll no longer be a public company that's required to operate within the Securities and Exchange Commission fucking regulations. So they'll just be able to do whatever they want, which is like yet another corporation moving into private equity. And, this is a top-down issue as to why I have said that America is in turmoil and the Great Depression 2.0 is coming. I recently was reading a report that the current holdings of the United States are 26% of the entirety of the United States is in private equity now. That's over a quarter of the United States itself. Businesses, properties, just the list goes on and on of all the things that they've purchased. Moving into private equity, which is just wild to think about. Because I think even as little as 20 years ago, that number was only at like 5%. Yeah, look at this. Private equity backed companies include more than 11,500 companies, a 400% increase since the year 2000. Which is wild because, like I said, if you go from 5%, increase at 400%, puts you at like 25%. Private equity is expected to control 40% of the single-family rental market by the year 2030. Private equity firms own more than 500,000 homes in the United States. Private equity investments strengthen the economy and grow businesses. Oh, really? They do? Private equity investments have a significant impact on the American workforce. Private equities buy, strip, and flip businesses, and that model can threaten Americans' livelihoods. Now, that's the real down and dirty right there. And that's going to ultimately end up continuing to be the impact within the United States, is that as private equity buys out all the homes, right? As private equity buys up all of the businesses, as private equity strips and flips and shutters businesses wherever they think, hey, fuck it, we don't need it in this area. You don't need it in this area. You don't need this service anymore, right? That's essentially how they're going to create the Great Depression. As you can see, it's already happening just from the amount of the income inequality in the United States that currently exists. It's just beyond the pale, and it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. And, you know, like a good example, just as a person, right? As a person just existing, like, let's say you live in an area that has 5 different grocery stores, right? So you think, oh, do I want to go to Kroger, or do I want to go to Winco, or do I want to go to Costco, or whatever, right? If private equity comes in and they buy out 2 of them and just decide to close those locations, right? Because they feel like, oh, well, the people shopping there, like, we don't really care about those people. Like, the clientele is not great. Maintaining the parking lot security is just it's just too much, and whatnot. So they'll just say, oh, fuck it, we'll just close that location because we just write it off on our taxes at the end of the year, essentially, and strip it down, sell everything off for parts, make some of their money back that way. And then you're stuck in an area where you're going, wait, I used to have 5 grocery stores, but now I only have 3 grocery stores. Well, what's up with that? Now, private equity might actually own another one of those grocery store chains, because that's generally the trend of how things are happening in the U.S. now. And realistically, that one would only have to talk with the 2 other locations, and or the way things are now with online pricing and whatnot, everyone just decides, hey, we're going to raise the cost of milk by 50 cents a gallon, by all of the milks. Doesn't matter where it comes from, doesn't matter who we're buying it from, organic, inorganic, mutant, space milk, whatever the fuck, cockroach milk, who gives a shit. And all the 3 grocery stores in your area just decide to raise all of their prices by 50 cents. And you're like, Why does it seem like the milk price just keeps going up? This is kind of interesting. Like, why does this keep happening and what's going on? And, 50-cent milk price increase doesn't mean anything to somebody who makes $3 million a year, right? Somebody that makes $30 million a year, somebody that makes $50 million a year. It means nothing to them. But it does mean something to people making $28,000 a year, to somebody making $40,000 a year, to somebody making $80,000 a year, right? And this is happening at every single point in our lives currently now in the United States. And it's happening on every street corner, everywhere around you. Everywhere around you, this is happening, and it's only going to continue to get worse. And they keep talking about, oh, well, inflation's bad. And you go like, yeah, the market in which you're going to buy something has been completely absconded with and is being manipulated by the people who own that market, right? They just own it now. They're not beholden to anything because private equity is just doing whatever it wants. And there's nobody there to say like, hey, you can't do that. Right. And the one thing that I've been like trying to explain to people for years and years now, that the groups that can advocate on your behalf, right? The groups that can advocate on your behalf on the fact that like they're going to advocate for that because that's their job is the government agencies that we sort of rely on, right? We rely on the Department of Transportation to keep the roads going as smoothly as they can. We rely on building inspectors to make sure that our houses are safe and constructed in a way that aren't going to fall down in the middle of the night and crush our children to death. We rely on certain groups like the SEC to oversee and make sure that monopolization practices aren't happening. But all of those industries are being stripped assuredly by a crazed fucking neo-Nazi named Elon Musk and his buddy, who is most likely a white nationalist neo-Nazi also, Donald Jerome Trump, or whatever the fuck his middle name is, and all the cronies around them. I literally was talking about Project 2025 for the year leading up to this fucking election, and they are instituting it now. They are 100% going through the playbook. They currently are trying to pass a bill so that your daughter's vaginas can get inspected by a strange person. Who proposed this bill? I forget who proposed this bill, so I don't want to speak out of pocket. Oh, here it is. Who proposed this bill? HR 28. Here we go. Okay, sponsored by Gregory Stube, some Florida guy. I'm just reading. Yeah. HR 28. So this bill generally prohibits school athletic programs from allowing individuals whose biological sex at birth was male to participate in programs that are for women or girls. Specifically, the bill provides that it is a violation of Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 for federally funded education programs or activities to operate, sponsor, or facilitate athletic programs or activities that allow individuals of the male sex to participate in programs or activities that are designed for women or girls. And essentially what this bill highlights is that they're going to require a verification of the person's sex at time of if you're going to participate in girls' sports. Yeah. And this is what I was talking about beforehand, where this is my argument around abortion rights, is that just on the basis of how much government overreach you're going to require if you ban abortion rights in the United States, you're going to require, you're going to have to hire all of these people to be present at any kind of doctor's appointment, that involves a woman or a girl, or however you want to describe anyone of the female persuasion. Anytime you go to the doctor, you're going to need a government representative to be in the room with you. You're going to need somebody from the government in every doctor's appointment. That your wife, your daughter, your grandma, depending on how old your grandma is, anytime a woman goes to any kind of doctor appointment, there's going to have to be a government employee present, right? So from the supposed group of people that will bring you the idea that, oh, we're going to cut the government, but we're going to spend more on defense. We're going to cut the government, but we're going to give war information to Russian leadership. We're going to give intel to Russian leadership on how they can murder more people and continue their war, right? We're going to cut back on government spending, supposedly, which has been a tiny microscopic drop in the bucket of any of the cuts that they've made, especially when you come down to, we cut a few people, we cut a few employees, we cut a little bit of our salary cost down, and yet when you look at the overall budget of the United States, it's like $7 trillion, and so even if any of the numbers, the fake ass numbers that they're making up, when they go and talk, whether it be on stage or in front of Fox News or whatever the fuck, which is just straight up corrupted to the point of it's just state media now for the white nationalist apparatus. Even if you go by the numbers that they're putting out there, it's not even any remote significant savings. Because I believe we're over $7 trillion a year. $6.75 trillion, so it's close to 7. And yet that same group of people, they're going to cut tax revenue. So you're going to cut revenue, and realistically not cut any government, because you're not going to cut anything from the defense spending, which is by far wildly out of control. You can't cut Social Security, even though they want to, but it just seems like what they're going to end up cutting whole hog and whole cloth is going to be Medicare, Medicaid. I mean, all of the cuts are going to have to come from there. Even though they want to cut Social Security, I don't think that there's a way for them around it right now. And I do believe that they passed... I think they passed the budget until... I think they did the budget resolution, right? House of Representatives narrowly passed a budget resolution last month that included a framework for trillions of dollars over the coming months, and the House and Senate will try to agree on a common budget resolution. Yeah, because the House budget was passed through reconciliation. So the reality is that, like, even though they claim there's supposed to be all these cuts in it, they passed the budget resolution with reconciliation measures, so that they basically just said, we're not really cutting anything. Anyhow, it's just nonsense. Private equity is just going to take everything, and you're going to get nothing. It's essentially what's going to happen. I don't know. Should I open the... I'm going to open the phone lines and see who's around today. Oh, shit. Witchy Cat's in here. Hey.
No, I'm not. What? It's all a vicious lie. And I'm loud. What did I tell you?
Are you loud? I don't even know. I can't even tell anymore. I
don't know if I am.
I can't even tell anymore. I don't even know.
Man, the things I don't know. Astronomical.
Yeah, I'm with you.
We're all gonna die. I've got that much down.
Yeah, Zipgun says to kick the can down the road on the budget. The one big beautiful bill will not be worked on until September, and it's not going to be one bill. That's right. The funny thing about, like, budget reconciliation is essentially, like, you say, "Hey, I want to do all this stuff," and then the other people say, "No, we don't want to do that," and then you say, because you need 60 votes. As far as the Senate goes, you need like 60 votes in order to get this full tilt, like complete change of the budget, right? Instead of, if you do budget reconciliation, which is 50, right? You have 50 plus 1, whatever the tiebreaker is, the vice president, that fucking creep. And basically with that, you just continue the same budget along, is essentially what happens. Is that you're just like, hey, all this stuff that these supposed Republicans were like, there's no way we are ever going to do any of that. We're not going to spend any money on that. They're just going to continue spending money on it because there isn't a mandate. There is no like imaginary mandate they keep talking about. Like, I understand that supposedly Trump won this election, which I'm finding it harder and harder to believe with every passing little shred of information in regards to the actual vote tallying on the swing states. I'm finding it less and less plausible that Trump actually did win this election. But regardless, let's say we go off the numbers that are publicly posted. He only got 48.7% of the voters. Didn't even get 50% of the voters that voted, right? And if we're talking this is some kind of gigantic mandate to just destroy the United States, it makes zero sense. Although they just keep saying it over and over again. And I've talked about this before. The MAGA people are just like sports fans. They're not like regular people like you and I that would be like, oh, hey, I like whatever this random political candidate seems to be saying about, whether or not elementary school kids should be allowed to have food while they're at school, right?
There you go.
And you're like, yeah, I kind of like what that guy was saying, or that lady, or whatever. Or, hey, fuck it, that space alien, right? The gray man from Saturn. I liked what he was saying, and I like that. Okay, let's think about implementing that in a sensible way. That obviously is going to take time. It's not like turning on a fucking light switch, It's not instant gratification, right? It's like, oh, we're gonna have to get all of these things going. We're gonna have to get oversight in place. We're gonna have to get people to start ordering all of this stuff and organizing how many workers you need in all of the multitude of locations where you need them to be. We need to find out who's going to supply the stuff, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole shitload of stuff that you have to do in order to put something into place. It's not this automatic instant gratification of like pulling on your dick for 5 minutes and then fucking spraying all over, right? And you're like, I kind of like what that, I kind of like what?
I said not good in an elementary school. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, don't do that. We'll put you in jail because as a community,
or an office.
Because as a community and as a society, we have deemed that behavior is disgusting, right? And it took the evolution of that over time to eventually go, yeah, here's the law. Here's what the law looks like, and if you do that kind of shit, you go to jail. And the society says, yeah, we agree with that. Writ large, let's do that. Let's put those guys into jail, right? Anyhow, let's say that you agree with that gray man from Saturn who was like, let's feed these kids lunch while they're at school, right? That doesn't mean you go out and you buy a flag and you buy 10 different shirts and you buy a bunch of ball caps and coffee mugs and pens and weird fucking books written by some creep in the year 600 to convince poor people that he knew God. You don't buy all that weird shit and hang it on your windows and hang it off of your truck and wear the hats around and turn it into the entirety of your personality. But if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, right? Or if you're a Arsenal fan, where the fuck is Arsenal from? England?
England, yes.
Yeah, but where exactly?
Oh, God. I don't know.
Like, what fucking city is it in? It's just in London, but it's one of the boroughs, right? Islington.
Right.
It's Islington. North London. Those fucking pricks. Those prick bastard fucking Islington sons of bitches.
Oh,
Get
come
fucked.
on now. It's London. They're twats.
Get fucked, stupid. Yeah, you heard me. Get fucked, Arsenal fans. Lick my balls. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Man City or Manchester United. Which one is it? Is it Man City or Man U?
Yeah, Manchester United.
You like United? You like Man U?
They're the one I hear more about, so I'm assuming do more.
Yeah, Manchester City is just a smaller club. Anyhow, these MAGA people are essentially Arsenal fans. They're essentially Philadelphia Eagles fans. They're essentially fucking Dallas Cowboys fans. That's who they are. It's become the entirety of their personality. They're Alabama Roll Tide, right? Like they've got Roll Tide fucking blankets. They've got Roll Tide shoes, shirts, hats, and they run around getting drunk, screaming about how this is the greatest thing that has ever fucking happened. Irregardless of any of the team's action, right? It doesn't matter. You're a fan, right? Like you aren't agreeing or disagreeing with a politician. You're now in a fan group of fucking hooligans that get drunk and reaffirm each other's fucking weird homosexual feelings for your weird fucking buddies, right? And the fact that you're too afraid to space dock your dicks together, which if they would just do that and get it over with, I think it would probably calm them down a little bit, you know. But it's that's the world that we live in, right? Is like there's 30% of the United States population that is essentially a countrywide sports fan group where they're just buying all of this paraphernalia and Zeke heiling to each other because they think it's funny, because they think they've like owned the libs or whatever the fuck we're talking about. Zipgun says, I'm concerned about Fetterman. Hope he does not become the next Manchin. He already has. He has already 100%. He's long since sold out 100% to whatever financial groups purchased his taint. They probably attached something to his undercarriage that they're like, yeah, we'll detonate this if you I don't know, vote for human rights. If you vote for basic human rights. What are you talking about?
I don't know that he even did that. He was really only a step or two away from the whole.
No, he sold out. I mean, he was basically his whole fucking thing running to be elected was essentially like, I'm a socialist, I'm pro-union, I'm this, I'm that, like I'm for the people, I'm this, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm a man of the people. And it literally was like a guy that just refuses to wear a suit. So a lot of people believed him because they're like, look, he wears a hoodie. A lot of people believed him. And the moment that he got into office, he did a complete 180. And has 100% just been bought out. And, you know, I mean, not to say I'm like full on conspiratorially minded, but I think the reality is that election, which wouldn't have normally been like nationally recognized, I think it brought a lot of attention. I think it brought a shitload of extra attention, and I think it brought a shitload of extra attention from a lot of these private equity group type people, right? People that are sitting on a $500 billion hedge fund, moving money around, buying out places like Joann's Fabrics, and then sitting on them for 10 years. And then suddenly they go bankrupt after having paid way more money back to the private equity that bought them. Right? So you think about it this way, like if you're this big private equity group and you buy, let's say you buy Walgreens, right? And I think Walgreens has something like 10,000 locations, something like that. Walgreens locations and staff. Labor force is what we need to look for.
didn't realize there was a
So-
detention center in Tacoma.
So Walgreens has approximately 220,000 employees and 8,500 stores throughout the United States and Puerto Rico. So when you start to think about these numbers, like we're going to buy, let's say you're private equity and you've got $10 billion and you're going to buy Walgreens, right? Now you own 8,500 stores, all of the inventory, and you're the boss of 220,000 employees. So what you start doing is you start cutting some employees, right? So that, let's say there is a total of 12 employees. Now all of a sudden there's just 11 employees, right? Which out of 8,500 stores, you add up those salaries, it does add up by the time you get to the end of it. Well, that money goes back to private equity throughout every year, right? Every year that goes by, and the business still stays open, but it's not open as well as it was before. You know, we want reduced service for the customers, right? So then you start dropping some of those employees. Or even one of the more ridiculous things that they do is they take everyone's hours and they drop them from 38 and 40 hours down to, say, 25 hours a week. Now everybody's a sort of part-time employee, but they still have to be there like 4 or 5 days a week. It's just a shorter shift. And then they go, oh, well, you don't work any 8-hour shifts, so guess what? You're not eligible for insurance anymore. So sorry about that. And you save money there. You start to reduce some of the stores. You sell off the stores, and you get rid of paying the leases on those stores. You take all of that inventory, you either liquidate it out, and then once it's liquidated out, you transfer the rest to some of your existing stores, and you just sell it. And then you just raise the prices at the stores that are open to cover the fact that you had to transfer this crap over there, right? And you just continue to do this year after year, right? And eventually, every year, you're going to make back, $1 billion because you've raised the rent price on all of the locations of these stores too. So you have 8,500 stores. Let's say that they're paying an average of $10,000 a month, just to keep the number round. You raise their rent up to $12,000 a month. So now the store is more responsible for paying more money, essentially, to the private equity, and then private equity pays the lease. And so that they end up being the middleman, and they carve off whatever they take out of that, and it goes back into their private equity fund, which they then use that to invest, right, into the stock market that's being directly manipulated by the dipshit in charge who keeps putting on tariffs and dropping tariffs. And by the way, if you're one of these private equity groups, it has been glaringly obvious that the new regime in the White House is fully open to a line of conversation between these private equity firms and tell them, hey, we're going to put a tariff on Wednesday, and then we're going to take it off on Friday, right? So naturally the stock market dips and then rebounds because people have a claim that or because people are like, oh, okay, never mind, not a tariff. Oh, look, the stock market went back up. Yeah. And so they're able to work that over, right? Which they obviously were doing this before, not so blatantly ridiculously, but they were doing this before by investing into what could only be described as rich people's lottery machine, because it's not really a slot machine, because they just put money in and then win money, right? Because they're all guaranteed bets. So they do this over a certain amount of time, and over a certain amount of time, they make all of the money back that the $10 billion that it took to buy this. And eventually, they run it directly into the ground, bankrupt it, and then have no reason to pay back any of the bankruptcy because it was its own entity, and now it's its own entity that doesn't exist anymore. They liquidate, sell off, take the money and go buy something else. So this last week, we all found out that Joann's Fabrics was going
business.
was going out of business. Joann's Fabrics is going out of business after it was purchased.
Been Chapter 11 for a couple of years.
Yeah, but Joann's Fabrics was purchased in 2011, I believe. Yes, the fabric and craft retailer Joann's Fabrics was purchased by Leonard Green and Partners, otherwise known as private equity, a private equity group, for $1.6 billion. This made Joann a private company. The deal was valued at $61 per share, which was 34% premium over the closing price the day before. Over 99% of the shares that were voted were in favor of this merger. So essentially what happened was that Joann's Fabrics was a publicly traded company that opened in 1943 and was purchased by private equity in 2011, right? And was slowly but surely run out of business. And the reason has everything to do with private equity, as they reduced and charged it money back and forth. It had a bankruptcy filing in 2021 and then ended up becoming so yeah, in 2021 it went public again, and then was became a private company again after it filed for bankruptcy. And you know, like, to see something like Joann's Fabrics that was like clearly a healthy business for decade after decade after decade after decade, right? It opened in 1943 and existed and sold for $63 a share or $61 a share to private equity that then proceeded to burn that business to the ground over a decade plus, right? And now every single location is going to close. And it's just another example of why people would be like, I don't understand. Why are you so critical of like private equity buying all of this stuff? And you're like, this is why, right? Like, my daughter doesn't even know what Toys R Us is. Okay? I want you guys to fucking understand something. Do you know the Toys R Us theme song? Do you know it, Witchy Cat?
I do. I'm a Toys R Us kid. Let's see. I have to think back on it. It's been a little while. But yes.
From bikes to trains to video games.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Then, yeah.
I'd be a Toys R Us kid. Right? So,
right.
My daughter knows that song, but she does not know it as the Toys R Us kid song, because they changed the lyrics and they sing it at the place that she went to daycare.
Oh, how funny.
Mm-hmm. So good. There are times where I've tried to correct her and I'm going to be like, you're singing the Toys R Us theme song. She doesn't know what Toys R Us is.
Right.
Because Toys R Us has been closed the entirety of her life. It hasn't existed. It didn't exist.
Right.
The entirety of her life. Right. So
I don't want to grow up.
Because even if I did. Right.
All right. And, I'd still be a Toys R Us kid. There we go. Took me a minute.
So, I mean, like, it's a perfect example of private equity buying Toys R Us, backcharging these, like, insane rental prices, cutting the workforce, right? And eventually
it's the
extracting
Walmart model of employment.
It's like they extracted it. It's not Walmart. This is corporate America. Like, this is private equity. This is private equity buying out these businesses, stripping these businesses, extracting all of this money out of it until it fails, inevitably, because that's the plan, right?
Right.
And essentially, this is who we have at the wheel of the United States right now, right? Like the guy who is at the wheel of the United States is a guy who's being advised by people like this. Hold on, Vicky Toria is here. I'll mute my mic. Okay, we're back. Although Witchy Cat was listening the whole time. Like a sneaky Pete. Although she's muted or something. I don't know. Alyssa Bentley says, yeah, I bought some yarn for a project in my extreme free time. It's now shoved into my closet. Yeah, I mean, the only reason I bring up Joanne Fabrics is because, like, I do go to Joanne Fabrics from time to time. Like those sound panels, I bought fabric at Joanne Fabrics. Like, I don't make canvas all the time anymore, but I used to get all my canvas when I'd actually make the frames and shit, which I don't. It's just too time consuming nowadays. But I used to buy my canvas there. I love the resource that Joanne Fabrics is, and there's a huge market for it. And the unfortunate reality of like what is going to happen is that there will be just more of a market for essentially like non-local businesses to take up that space, right? So you got to think Like, how many of the Joann's Fabrics customers are now just going to go to online retailers like Amazon, right? Because there isn't a local option anymore for them to go to Joann's, right? I guess Michael's is left.
Hobby Lobby,
And
unfortunately.
I don't give any money to Hobby Lobby because
Good man.
they're pieces of shit company. They're run
Yep.
by fucking psychos, and they're run by
And they gave
psychos,
us
and
Citizens United.
they brought us Citizens United. They fully back Project 2025. So if you think like, somebody else's religion is going to run your life, you're gonna have to live by the laws of some weird book written by somebody who lived in a barn and didn't wash his hands. Ooh, you got to think about that factor. You ever think about that factor if you're time traveling? You'd go back in time and you'd probably get diphtheria from the guy who was scribbling down shit about the Bible because he wiped his hand. He wiped his ass with his bare hand, and then he would eat sandwiches and shit that he found off the ground. Actually, he probably just stole the sandwiches from poor people, right? Like, he just told them that God said he had to give him the sandwich. So, give me those sandwiches.
Take 3 loaves. I'm taking all of them.
Yeah, these 3 loaves are my loaves, and I shall have them because God said so. Because he has the bat phone. He had that red phone.
Oh.
Like the
that
commissioner.
Through time. Okay.
When the commissioner calls on the bat phone, that red phone would ring.
He flips the head up of whatever it was, and
You
there's
know what
a
I'm talking
phone
about?
inside. Yes, I do. That's funny.
Oh, I'm getting fucking messages. I'm getting fucking messages because of the intrigue. Hold on.
Fucking messages. Well, those are the important ones.
The fucking messages because of the intrigue. The intrigue is top tier, you motherfuckers.
Weirdo. I just learned a thing.
What?
I mean, several things. I did not realize there is an ICE detention facility in Tacoma.
Yeah, there's an ICE facility in Tacoma. Yep.
I found that out because there's a British woman that's been detained for 10 days, and she's sitting in there now. I just saw an article on it. She tried to cross into Canada on the Pat Crest Trail. Turns out her visa was incorrect. They turned her back, and the U.S. immediately deemed her illegal and tossed her in the jail.
Hey. So there's a British lady in jail in Tacoma?
Yeah.
Okay.
For trying to cross into Canada, not having the right visa, and then immediately being told she was illegal when she came back into the U.S.
Well, yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen if because you're breaking the law. You see.
Right. Right.
And the fucking that press lady.
Even though she.
The White House, the press speaker, whatever her name is.
Blondie bitch, Linda, whatever.
Oh my God, what a scandalous freak! I mean, that fucking freak was asked a question about like how many of the immigrants that have been deported were criminals, and she said all of them because they were illegally here, so they're criminals. That makes them criminal, even though it's not even factually or accurately true, because if you're illegally in the United States, that's a civil infraction. It's not a criminal infraction. And by the way, it was escalated. It was escalated to be a civil by fucking Trump's last administration. So it's like, can you imagine? Can you imagine like just how much of a gigantic piece of shit you have to be to be that person. Like, it is fucking unbelievable. And there's and truth be told, like, I watched Sam Cedar was on Jubilee. Well, I didn't watch it. I listened to it. He was on Jubilee where he was talking to 20 it's like the 20 conservatives
Yes.
debate one lib cuck, you know, one super
Right.
cuck lib, you know.
Right.
And there was this gal on there that pretty much like epitomized if you wanted to be emulating the press secretary, is essentially what she was doing with her life. And one of the examples that she said was xenophobic white nationalism is good, and we should all be doing that. And she actually was saying that shit knowing it was going to be broadcast, you know.
Seriously. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's cameras around you.
Ooh.
You're being recorded.
In theory.
But this is where America is at right now. Like, it's clearly not all of us. It's clearly not a majority. It's clearly not accurate to the way that Americans actually feel, right? But those people are being amplified to the point where it's allowing that other small minority of fucking psychos, you know, is no better way to describe it, are becoming super emboldened by the amplification of these terrible fucking messages that are being put out into the world. And yet here we are, right? And I don't know how many times, like, I need to explain to these conservative fucking freak shows, right, that, like, because I'm on the side of erring on the side of pacifism does not mean I have not been involved in extremely violent instances in my life to protect people that I want to protect, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that I'm incapable of physical interactions that would cause harm to other people. I am capable of doing that, even though I choose to be pacifist at almost every interaction until absolutely there's no other action that could be
other option.
Right.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that I haven't trained for that, because I have, and it doesn't mean that I don't have guns, because I have guns. I believe guns are a formidable tool, and they are a tool that are extraordinarily useful for specific applications, right? Like shooting a deer from 300 feet away to feed a family that needs to eat, right? Or if jackboot thugs have decided that they want to put together a militia and start to run people out of town, right? It doesn't mean that just because I'm a huge fucking liberal or whatever you want to call me, communist, socialist, whatever the fuck you want to call me, doesn't mean that I'm not going to defend my neighbors when the time comes, right? So, trying to explain that on a regular basis for the length of the last, 20 fucking years to these goddamn pieces of shit that kowtow to every fucking corporate goddamn mandate that has ever been passed down to them, because it gets covered in this fucking veneer, this false veneer of self-righteousness and sold to you a bill of goods that God decrees whatever the fuck, right?
Right.
I don't know how many times I have to post these disgusting preachers that preach not even remotely anything involved to their religion, but it's literally the marching orders of the fucking Ku Klux Klan or whatnot at their goddamn church every Sunday, when occasionally somebody smuggles a camera in there and fucking records it, right?
Right. And then they get, by the way, there's been a whole clutch of them being tried on children sexual abuse this last week. So,
Yeah.
More fun.
Yeah, not to mention like the Catholic Church covering up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of child molesting fucking priests in their goddamn religion. And yet
Right.
no one bats an eye because, like, of course they're child molesters, but we should definitely take their opinion on how to live our lives and everything like that, right?
Right.
That just goes without saying, besides boobs. Yes, exactly, boobs. Boobs is legit. Boobs just are legit. I'm sorry. It's just a fact.
Too legit to put.
It's just a fact of life. Okay? I'm sorry.
Show the guns when the boobs are in the way.
Boobs are legit. Okay? I don't know what it is about it. I don't understand. It's a magical thing. Boobs are just magical, okay? So deal with
They
it.
hold superpowers.
Burn the witch. She's a witch. She's got
now.
boobs.
Oh.
Which, if you got magical boobs, you're doing magic shit. You're probably a witch, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Do you weigh
Ask anybody.
weigh as much as a duck?
Yes. And I sink underwater when strapped to stones.
Oh my god. She's a witch.
All in all, I'm destined to burn, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even tell you how much like personal sacrifice I'd be willing to do if I could be in a modern day Monty Python fucking troupe. I don't even know what to tell you.
Yeah, Skippy.
I would eat crow daily, you know what I'm saying? But here we are. You know what I mean? And like that's the weird part is like here we are and all of this insane shit is going on and the alarm is like slowly being sounded. But I don't know what it's going to lead to if people are going to actually get motivated to do something, because I definitely see a change in like humanity that I was recently reading a piece that I don't know who it was by, but I was reading a thing that was essentially it brought the parallels together that like there was a point in time when you would get outraged about something and you would go to the city council meeting, right? Whereas now you get outraged about something and the being outraged about it is the action. Does that make sense? That like,
yes,
I already did something because I was outraged. Like that's the thing that I did. Right.
Right.
So it's really a wonder, to me as to like what is ultimately going to happen, because the United States has turned its back on our fucking allies. The Americans, the current administration has turned its back on our allies, leading to the deaths of, I don't even know how many deaths so far, but it's going to be thousands and thousands of Ukrainians at the very least.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the other future shit that is coming down the pipeline here. The new regime in America has given up on the idea of providing an idea that there is stability in the United States. Like, people don't understand that, like, if you are going to implement these tariffs, right, on other countries, and the reason that you're telling your constituents that you're going to put these tariffs on is because they're going to bring back manufacturing to the United States, right? Now, think of it this way. Think if you're some kind of businessman who's got a bunch of money and you think, oh, I want to build widgets so that I can sell them to the Americans because I think there's a lot of money to be made with these widgets. I want to sell them to Americans in America, and that's what we're going to do. And they go, oh, the fucking smooth-brained dipshits in the White House decide we're going to put a tariff on. Then we're going to take a tariff off. Then we're going to put a tariff on. Then we're going to take a tariff off.
Yep.
If you're somebody who's going to invest in building this monumental infrastructure that is a manufacturing facility in the United States to build your widgets, the idea of doing that is 100% thrown right into the trash because no one is even signaling a second of stability from within the American government at this point, right? Are you going to spend $5 billion to build this big widget factory in the United States when from day to day they're constantly changing whether there'll be a tariff or not? And this is only in the tariff thing, right? As an investor, here's what you end up doing. You take that money and you put it somewhere where it makes money, right? It's one thing that, like, I fundamentally keep trying to explain to Americans that I talk to, that one of the functional reasons that our system is so dramatically broken is because money itself generates more money. Do you see what I'm saying? You don't have to do anything with the money. You can just basically invest that money and it will turn into more money. The money itself will grow. You don't even need to pour water on it, right? So you have to understand that, like, if you're somebody who's holding a lot of capital, you would just want that capital to make more capital, right? Like, if you have a bunch of mice, the mice have sex, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch more mice, right? You would want that to happen with your money without having to input any more money into it, right? So those investors, they're supposedly like, oh, we're bringing in new investors to start building in the United States. Guess what? They don't want to, because you're not even showing stability from day to day, right? Do they want to build a widget factory here that's going to build widgets for 30, 40, 50 years? Yes. Have you shown that you could even be stable for a year or a half a year or a month or a week or a day? You can't even go day to day without these dipshits flip-flopping on the fucking shit that they're supposedly put so much thought into over the last fucking year after year after year, right? Oh, I've been thinking about it for a long time. They still don't have a fucking healthcare proposal, right?
Right.
Trump was president for 4 years. Biden was president for 4 years. Trump ran before that. So you got to think it's been at least, at the very minimum, it has been 8 solid years that they have had to come up with a healthcare program, a healthcare plan for the United States people. They still don't have it 8 years later.
Yep.
They haven't even proposed anything, right? And imagine that you're the widget factory guy who wants to build a widget factory, and you go, have those guys even figured out that healthcare plan that they've been talking about for 8 years? Nope. They haven't come up with anything. Oh, what have they been up to? Oh, they've been jacking off Elon Musk and just doing fucking artificial insemination with whatever they're collecting out of that guy. You know, because he seems to keep having all of these kids, but he doesn't seem to be going on any dates. You know what I'm saying? He's not on any dates, but he's somehow putting out kids. What's that?
Never actually been seen with any of the women in question.
Yeah, it's very odd. It's very odd. Yeah, so that's what they've been up to, you know. And even recently, like, on a side tangent here, there's a guy who's actually pretty local to me from up north. He's from Bellingham, Washington, and he's a creator. And he recently went on Joe Rogan. And this guy went from supposedly being a leftist dude, right, to suddenly doing a 180. And he's started talking about the Jews and how the Jews are put Epstein up to his shenanigans, because Epstein was essentially like a CIA plant put in by the Jews and whatnot to get blackmail tapes, right?
And yet,
Which is
why are we supporting Israel?
yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting how these guys go down the pipeline of being on X for the last year and a half or whatever, where it's like the only place where he could freely speak about these things, where it's like, I was always kind of sus about the shit that this guy was posting because he was always talking about BlackRock and all this nonsense. And how private equity is just buying up all of these companies and whatnot. And I'm into it. And I get that, like, that shit going on is bad. So instead of continuing to fight for what he supposedly, air quote, believed in before, now he's a Joe Rogan simp, and goes on Alex Jones, and everything is the fault of the Jews and whatnot. And so there's been a bunch of people pushing back on him, claiming that he's an anti-Semite. And now he's pushing back, saying, like, I'm not anti-Semitic, this and that and the other thing. And you're like, but the reality is that you did post all of this stuff about how the Jewish mafia is the ones that are that have been taking down all of these groups and doing all of this stuff for so long behind the scenes, and it's like, okay, do you want to talk about all of the non-Jewish organizations that were doing all of this crazy stuff? No, he just wants to focus on that because he claims he read a couple of books. And it's like, if you go look up the books, they're very sussy as to like, yeah. Oh, the content of this was written by a guy who, I don't know, strangely enough, has all these organizational ties to, let's say, slightly questionable groups, right?
That's right. Oh,
and,
the words white and supreme seem to feature prominently.
Already in 2001, I saw this would happen when George W. Bush said, if you are not with us, you are against us, a formula perfect for psychotic leaders to take advantage of. Yeah, I mean, the reality is that this has been going on in the United States for the last 50 years. I mean, like, and longer. I mean, people like to point to, like, oh, the Civil Rights era. And it's like, yeah, but it was happening before that. And you go like, well, the World War II era. And you go like, yeah, but it was happening before that. And then you go like World War I era. And you go like, yeah, they also lynched all the black people in the South that had gotten into Senate positions and the House of Representatives. If you happen to be black, they just lynched all of them around that time. So yeah, it's been going on for longer than that. It's always kind of like very interesting where you see these sort of like fairly intellectual guys and they start doing air quote research, right? Which is like undirected kind of scrambling around and then doing the meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right? This one, hold on. Or is a good version of it? Can we just get like a full screen version of it?
Oh, there is no full screen.
There is no full screen, apparently. I don't know.
Only
What's the high quality? They end up doing this meme after a while, right? They end up doing the Charlie Day meme from It's Always Sunny, where, they're doing this meme because they figured it out. They figured it out, right? And, the reason why, like, It's Always Sunny did this in the first place was that Charlie Day was doing self-directed research, which is like air quote research, right? Where you're not requiring any input. You're gathering things and connecting things together in your own mind, in your own fucking weird, sort of paranoia, right? Like your own paranoid mind. You start collecting all these things together, and you end up going down this like conspiracy pathway. And if you have followers, right? Like if you have followers
You
on
share.
Instagram, what's that?
Oh, sorry. I said you share. Sorry.
Well, I'm saying that like if you have followers on Instagram, especially TikTok, especially X, right? Twitter, and you start posting this stuff. The thing is that like if this was 20 years ago and Charlie Day was going crazy with all this conspiracy shit that he tied together with basically no evidence other than, hey, I read some stuff, right?
Feels right.
That person that would post that 20 years ago, people would go like, dude, you need to pump the brakes and maybe go take some classes. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you need to go deal with some actual experts on the things that you're talking about, right? Like the people that have dedicated 20, 30 years to researching and publishing papers and having people review those papers and push back on those papers that they'd published and whatnot. You should probably go interact with some of those people if these are the connections that you're coming up with, right? When are you going to interact with an expert in this field, right? Oh, no. You're not going to interact with an expert in the field. You're going to interact with another psychopath on Twitter who has done the exact same similar fucking Adderall fueled fucking I stayed up all night reading all of this this book, right? But it's like
Right.
if you stayed up all night and read Mein Kampf, right? And then be like, "Yeah, but I researched the solution to the problem, to the Jewish problem. I researched it all night long. I stayed up and I read this book."
He was an expert in his field.
Was an expert. This is a book written by an expert, right? And then nobody ever steps in and goes like, "Hey, bro, you were reading fucking Hitler's book. What are you doing?" Right?
Right.
You can read a book and completely misinterpret all of the information that you read because you're not able to understand like what lens you're supposed to be reading it through, right? Like if you read a fantasy novel, right? Let's just say you read book 17 of whatever fantasy novel, right? And you're like, "Holy shit, there's all this crazy stuff in this fantasy book I read. All of the motivations are insane. All of the characters are fucking wild. We don't even know why. What the fuck is going on," right? And you go like, "Have you read 1 through 16? Why'd you start on book 17? You don't even know the motivations of the rogue character as to why he would have known to like stab the impersonating lady, right? That was actually a fucking demon ghoul or whatever, right? Because if you'd read book 1 through 16, this has already happened to him 15 times before, right? And you're like,
Yep.
yeah, that's how he knows that this is actually like a spy dressed up in a human outfit, right? From the demon guy or whatever, right? So it's the same thing as these fucking conspiracy-minded fucking weirdos doing the Charlie Day thing, that they're like, "Look, I read all of this stuff. I've connected the dots." Right? It's like,
Yep.
dude, you connected the dots. You read a bunch of books. Sure, you read a bunch of books. You read a bunch of books from a fucking white power Nazi supremacist guy.
Right.
And you've come to the conclusion that clearly this is the group of bad people that are behind all of the bad things that have ever happened in the world. Right? Right.
I always feel like that when when Atlas Shrugged gets a little popularity bump again. You're just like,
Oh, it does, because
Jesus.
the fucking libertarians, man. I'm telling you.
Exactly. Get out of your basements. Talk to each other. Come on now. Work it
Get
out.
out of your fucking basement. I mean, I posted about this the other day that like the reason that conservatives want to tout and tell you about a meritocracy, right? Like, why is it that when somebody starts to talk about meritocracy, a dog whistle is going off in my head. Right?
Right.
Why is that? Why would it be that, well, hey, it sounds totally reasonable that somebody would be like a meritocracy, right? So everything is based on merit, right? Like we have a whole entire society that is based on merit. The reason why an immediate dog whistle starts to go off in my mind is because who is creating the basis for evaluating your merit? Right? Who is it? Who is it that is actually scoring on the score sheet whether you have merit or not? Right? Is something been do we have like, is there a large group of people that are coming up to a consensus to actually verify whether or not your merit is better than somebody else's or whatnot, or your performance evaluation is this, that, or the other thing? Like, strangely enough, it will end up being one singular figure, right? Similar to some dipshit at the fucking church who will then abjectly verify whether or not your merit is valuable or not. Very similar to the systems designed by the Ivy League institution backing fucking ghouls from the Carnegie family, right? That like, oh, but did he go to an Ivy League school, right? Does he know Jeffrey from finance, right?
Right.
Because if you run a system that is air quote based on meritocracy, right? You are so able to shift the levers of power into the favor of a specific group that you want to be promoted to the top, right? And it's the exact same shit that all of you out there have noticed over the years of working in corporate America, that the person that goes on the golf trips, the guys that show up to happy hour, the dudes that go to the strip clubs with the boys on the weekend, the people that all show up for all of that shit are the ones that get promoted, regardless of whether they're the best worker or the best manager or the best employee or whatever. Like, you have seen this over and over again in corporate America, as have I, time and time and time and time again, that it's like, oh, Roll Tide alum guy strangely got motivated. He's the vice president now. Like, who voted for that guy to be the vice president? Oh, strangely enough, the president of the company went to Alabama also for Roll Tide. And strangely enough, this whole company is going to be run by people that went to Alabama for some reason, right? And it's the same reason that you would look at an example in the Supreme Court where you have Amy Coney Barrett, you have, what's his name? The beer guy.
Oh, yeah.
Don't just say yeah.
Jesus. I can't think of his name. God damn it.
That's why you look up the Supreme
I can
Court.
see him. I can see his
That's why
face.
you look up the Supreme Court members.
I'm working on it. But you're doing it too, so don't even.
Brett Kavanaugh.
Oh, there we go.
So you have Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch, right? Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh worked on the Hanging Chad thing in Florida when Al Gore essentially air quote lost the presidential election. Strangely enough, those two judges worked together on that. And Brett Kavanaugh went to high school with Neil Gorsuch, right? We have 3 senators who are deeply entangled in early life, right? That are all now Supreme Court justices, right? Which is fucking insane. It's insane that 3 of these fucking freaks had all this time together in early life with each other. They went to the same high school. Hold on. Let me give you a screenshot here. I'm already getting the phlegmy hoarseness in my throat today. I'm already getting it again.
You're just
It's making me cough.
lung monster.
That these 3 freaks right here all spent time in early life. Gorsuch Kavanaugh, these guys went to the same high school. These guys went to the same high school that have like an Olympic pool. It has its own golf course. And here it is right here. He was an associate counsel for the then senior associate counsel to President George W. Bush. Strangely enough, same with this fucking freak. Right down here, Amy Coney Barrett. These guys were assistants to the justices on the exact same shit when the hanging Chad nonsense down in Florida. But these three freaks on the Supreme Court had all this like early interactions in their early life. They all claimed to have like not really known each other. I didn't really know them. These two, Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett, worked together.
They could
previously
make that claim.
What's that?
Well, you know, she's a DEI hire now this week, so according to Trump.
Yeah, because she didn't do something that they wanted her to do. I forget what it was.
It just cracks me up. He picked her, but she's a DEI hire.
Right. Hold on.
What a gomer. She wouldn't let him freeze funds, I think is the one it was.
No, Trump defended her, saying she's a very good woman. But MAGA's been attacking her. The MAGA people have been attacking her. Like I said, the football fans, the soccer fans.
Yes. The damn Arsenal and Manchester United.
Yeah, where was it? Yeah, so in last year's decision on so-called presidential immunity, for example, Amy Coney Barrett rejected Chief Justice John Roberts' sweeping opinion and argued for a more nuanced case-by-case approach. In an EPA-related case earlier this week, she sharply dissented from Justice Samuel Alito's majority ruling in that the Clean Water Act doesn't actually require water to be clean. And in the court's first major decision on the Trump administration's war on federal agencies, she cast a decisive vote to force U.S. aid to disperse $2 billion in frozen payments for contractors. The trend is now apparent enough that many conservatives are openly attacking Barrett for perceived disloyalty. Some MAGA activists denounced her in sexist terms by describing her as a DEI hire. One conservative lawyer described her as a rattled law professor with her head up her ass. Others criticized her for being insufficiently happy to greet President Donald Trump at his Tuesday address at the Capitol, which is even
Nobody
fucking.
looks happy.
It's even insane because justices normally don't go to
State of the Union.
Well, it's a presidential address or whatever because it's not State of the Union yet because he's only been in for a month. The first one isn't a State of the Union, even though it's like a State of the Union.
Right.
It's a presidential address. But either way, the justices don't normally go to any of them up until very, very recently. Creeps like Justice Thomas would show up because they want to get fanfare from people because they don't actually want to be justices. They want to be rich and famous.
Well, I will say to their benefit, both they and the chiefs of staff were very careful to do their best to remain neutral. They didn't do any of the clapping. They didn't do anything. They just sat there like statues. So,
what, all of them?
That was, yeah, actually, throughout the whole speech.
I don't know if I believe you. I'll have to see it to believe you.
I actually forced myself to sit through and watch the damn thing.
And watch them?
So.
Did you watch them the whole time?
Well, because they do in the shot when they showed, anytime they showed the Dems, which they liked to show a lot, to show that they weren't jumping up to applaud and, they were doing their town hall signs and such. Because the Supreme Court and the chiefs of staff were seated in front on the Dems side, you had a clear view of them that whole time. And I think only 4 of the Supreme Court showed.
Yeah, the thing is, like, it's weird that any of them even show up.
Showed it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, because you got to think, like, if you're a Supreme Court justice, you're supposedly spending all of this time going over the most important cases in the whole country.
Right.
You probably don't have a lot of time to just go sit through stupid speeches, you know?
Right.
And if you do happen to have time off, you're going to probably go spend it with your family or whatnot, right?
Versus listening to stories about transgender mice.
In the U.S., merit seems to be based on income or property, and nobody cares if you made your money, inherited it, or got lucky, or used semi-shady deals. Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, is that, like, in a meritocracy, right, like, the wealthy get automatically promoted, right? So it's U.S. senators that will go on TV and start crying about how the United States spends more money per student than any other developed country, right? And I don't want to have this wrong.
Oh, the amount spent on students.
Yeah.
Oh,
Public education spending in the United States falls short of global benchmarks and lags behind economic growth. K through 12 schools spend $857.2 billion total, which is $17,000 per pupil annually. Which almost 90% of that is state funding. That's not federal funding. For any of you fucking maniacs out there, right? So the senators will go on TV and they'll cry about this right here. They'll just cry about how they're spending all of this money and our kids aren't getting they aren't getting the education. These kids aren't getting the education, right? So we're talking about an average of $17,000 a year per student, right?
Yep.
Whereas if you look at in states like Texas, it's an average of $14,000. Arizona, $10,000 a year. Idaho, $9,000 a year. Where I live in Washington State, $20,000 a year. I wonder why the kids from Washington State are doing better on average than the kids from Arizona. I wonder why. Because of investing into the kids. But those state senators, will send their kids to schools that will average at an average cost of from $75,000 a year to down all the way down to $38,800, right? Or sorry, yeah, $38,000 versus the average of $17,000. So tuition at a private school that prepares students for the Ivy League can vary depending on the school and the state. In addition to tuition, there are other costs like books, uniforms, and technology. Private school average cost in 2023 was $38,820 a year. So we started to think about, like, if the kids in public schools were spending an average of $17,000 a year, but the kids in private schools are getting an average of $38,800 a year, there's a $20,000 discrepancy there on the schools that these senators, wealthy families, whatever, are sending their kids to. The schools that they're sending their kids to are spending an extra $21,000 a year, which is the gap between how much average kids are we're spending on kids' education in the public school system, the gap between that and the private schools is bigger than the total amount that the kids in public schools are getting contributed to on average. So 17,000 up to 38,000, that's an extra $21,000 a year, which you don't have to be a math wizard to understand that 21 is more than 17. So it's not even double. It's double plus for those kids going to private schools, right? And then those kids get to go on to the colleges that if you go there and you get a degree, then you automatically...
Right.
Then you're automatically put in a position to be fast-tracked into a college that will put you in a position that will fast-track you into a job that right out of college you're going to be making, what, $200,000 a year that you just wander into because, air quote, meritocracy, right? But yes, we have it here over as well. Oh, at Just Bob, I get it. Not every time you're up for these topics. So one of the things that like has come up recently is that people are like, I don't understand, your live stream is pretty much about politics, and you're seemingly pretty upset about like the things that are going on. And I want people to fundamentally understand something, that like, I love fish tanks. I love ecosystems. I love plants. I love growing stuff. I love building systems for people. I love doing all of that stuff. Financially speaking, it has proven itself to not be a viable avenue for me to like finance what I want to do, which is just survive as a human being, right? And I spent a lot of time ignoring the politics and shit because people would go, I don't want to hear about politics. Just tell me about your fish tanks, right? I spent a lot of time doing that because I wanted to earn enough money for my family, right? I wanted to earn enough money for my family. Now, outside of like my personal decisions in order to make money for my family, I make enough money being a contractor, building stuff for people that aren't conservative fucking psychos that are attempting to destroy our country every single day, so that my family has enough money to eat and pay the bills and keep the lights on and pay the insurance and do all of that stuff. So I'm going to keep doing that work. But if you guys want me to just ignore politically while we burn in hell, and then talk to you about my CO2 system, like, sorry, I don't really want to. I don't really want to turn my back on the things that are profoundly important that are going on in the world and silence my voice and my ability to talk about things just because people want to put their head in the sand and talk about their fish tank, right? Like, sorry. You know, if somebody wants to pay me to fly out to your club and do like a 2-hour long presentation about aquarium stuff, you can go ahead and send me a deposit, send me the dates, buy my airfare, pay for the hotel, pay for all that stuff, and I'll come talk to you just about fish tank stuff. I'll be glad to do it. I'll look at it like a job. I'll treat it like a job. I'll come and do a presentation for you. I went to the Sacramento fin dig last year. They paid Alexander Williamson to fly out there and give a talk. So if you guys would want me to do something like that, then go ahead and foot the bill and I'll be glad to do it. In the meantime, as far as like broadcasting onto the internet to an unknown amount of people, to however long this is going to be allowed to exist on the internet, I'm going to put my voice to talk about some of the stuff that is going on in the world that is going to directly and negatively affect people that I care about, right? that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to keep doing it. Right? And if people want to support this, they can. If people don't want to support this, you sure as shit don't have to. Oh, no, Just Bob's is going to sleep. Yeah, Just Bob was just going to sleep. It's late there. It's late over in the Europe, wherever you guys are at. Yeah, Just Bob's in like Belgium, I think, or something. I'm not sure. I forget. What's up?
I'm always surprised that people don't come into the stream to do these criticisms, that they'll email you in the background but not comment on it in the comments later, or
well, they leave comments. They leave comments on the streams. I just fucking delete them. I don't fucking care.
Fair enough. Okay.
They're just delete. I just delete them. I mean, and people do leave comments in the stream. We've talked to them before.
Well, yeah.
And you know, the reality is that like there's only 16 people watching right now, but between 300 and 500 people will watch it by the time next week rolls around. After that, I don't check, so I don't really even fucking know. Like, they could be watched a whole bunch more times, but I don't look. So, but I just look at the last one when I go to set up this one.
Right.
You know, so it's like I would be more than happy to put stuff together for people for a fish presentation, but like when it comes to this shit, like I'm talking about this stuff. I'm not involved in a company anymore. I don't have anything to do with Aquarium Co-op. I don't want to have anything to do with Aquarium Co-op, and I never will. And people will say that like, oh, well, you know, maybe you could have just said whatever you wanted before. And it's like, no, I couldn't say whatever I wanted to before because of you sign things that companies make you sign them, right? You either lose your job or sign this piece of paper that says you're not going to be this, that, and the other on the internet, right? So,
even in your off time, you represent this company. Yeah, blah, blah.
Yeah, even in your off time, you represent this company, right? You ever heard that before? Like, bitch, I don't represent Applebee's, right?
I am not wearing my 32 pieces of flair outside of this building.
I don't have any fucking flair on, bitch. I don't, you know. Maybe I made you whatever jalapeno poppers one time a million years ago. Maybe I made you a fucking steak and you ate it, right?
Steak. Sorry.
But it's like I don't represent that company. I don't work for that company. But everything nowadays is 100%. Everything nowadays is 100%. Like, it's got to be a commodity. It's got to make money. You have to take into consideration that you're going to lose money, this money, that money, the other money. And, like, frankly, I just don't fucking care. I really don't. I even had a customer the other day that I was talking to that was like, well, what are you going to do? It was actually one of the realtors I work for. And he was like, what are you going to do if you encounter the, like, fucking MAGA people that are, like, out of their fucking minds and shit and da-da-da-da? Like, and I was like, I don't work for them. And he was like, what do you mean you don't work for them? I'm like, I turn around and drive away. And I go work somewhere else. And they're like, what? And I'm like, do you think I want to give a really good deal? Do you think I want to do really hard work and do good work for somebody who is voting for people that I love and care about? And to be clear, you guys, here's something I want people to understand. These people are taking away the rights of people I fucking hate. Right? Mm-hmm. They're taking away the rights of people I fucking disdain.
Yep.
And I still do not want that bullshit to happen. I don't want that bullshit to happen to people I like. I don't want this bullshit to happen to people I don't like. I don't want this bullshit to happen, period. That's what it's called, to have an actual fucking belief, right? When you have an actual belief system, you want your belief system to apply to all people, not just the people you like. Right? Like, fundamentally, when people are like, I don't understand why you don't get along with white nationalists. You get what I'm saying here?
I'm picking up.
I don't want any of those people to take away the rights of people I don't like or do like. But that is their goal, right? And they have a clear belief that groups are below them and shouldn't be allowed to have the freedoms that we're supposed to be trying to improve upon and not remove, right?
Right.
Like, and like, none of this shit is about, like, I just want the people I like to have things that you know, like, I want the people I don't like to have freedoms and rights and ability to have a better life, to be able to go to work, to be able to take care of their kids, to be able to take care of their family, for the kids to be able to be educated with the community in mind, right? Like, how many fucking dipshit weirdos do I know now that are, like, homeschooling their kids, right? Later on in life, it's going to come up to me to tell them, hey, your kids did not turn out very well. They are not very smart. They're not very educated, and they don't have a fucking lick of sense in the world, right? Like, nobody ever wants to hear that, because most of the homeschool kids are super compliant around their parents, and somehow compliance is good, is air quote good, right? Like, these kids have been beat down by their parents for fucking 15 years straight, nonstop, right? Under the watchful eye of Sauron, right? With the inability to like learn perspectives from other people around the world, right? Even like somebody that lives near me who is, they're all right, first and foremost, they're an extremely attractive couple. Super tall, attractive guy, super fit. Super tall, attractive girl, super fit. Homeschool kids, oh my God, these homeschool kids are amazing. But these homeschool kids haven't had a chance to not be amazing yet, right? When you're fucking 7 years old, you have not had a chance to not be amazing. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? These 7-year-old kids who seem bright and super compliant is essentially what 7-year-old kids seem like. More often than not. They seem super compliant. They seem super happy and chipper, and they seem pretty bright. Like most 7-year-olds seem pretty bright, pretty chipper, pretty tolerant, right? But there is definitely going to come a day over the next 10 years that kid is then going to be lacking in the tools to be able to engage with the rest of the world in a way that the 95% of the rest of the population is able to do without even thinking about it, right?
Yep.
And to fucking break the news to those parents out there that, like, the kid you homeschooled to 17 years old does not know how to engage in social situations and is likely going to find them in a sexual situation that they don't know how to deal with, that is going to find themselves in a substance abuse situation that they don't know how to deal with. It's going to find themselves in a physical endangerment situation that they don't know how to fucking engage with, right? Those things, those three things are going to happen time and 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 time again. If you live in the United States or whatever developed country, whether it be Canada, Mexico, Netherlands, England, whatever, Australia, between the ages of 15 and 25, those young people are going to run into sexual situations that they don't know how to fucking deal with. They don't know how to say yes to things that they want to do, and they don't know how to say no to things that they don't want to do. So they're probably going to end up doing butt stuff and weird things that they are going to regret later on down the road. They're going to run into drug situations, whether it be drinking, whether it be fucking people smoking weed, whether it be people doing coke, doing fucking fentanyl, whatever. They're going to run into drug situations that they are ill prepared to handle because the only people they've realistically engaged with are their parents and like aunts and uncles and shit like that are all going to fucking be treating them with kid gloves the entirety of their developing into a fucking small human, right? And they're also going to run into 3 physical situations that they do not know how to deal with, whether it be violence on the fucking street, whether it be I'm going to ride a dirt bike and crash into a fucking tree, I'm going to be a guy who jumps off of a bridge and fucking drowns because you just weren't fucking ready for it, and a bunch of other kids were doing it, and the other kids completely irresponsible also. And by the way, this happened when I was in high school. There were a bunch of kids playing up on the train trestle, and some of them went to jail for this, but one of them off the train trestle and fucking drowned. Okay? And I'm saying that those are only 3 examples of the multitude of things that they're going to run into once they're grown up. And if they haven't been socialized in a way that even makes sense at all into the world that they're going to engage with, which is going to be thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of like non-credentialed, non-screened people engaging with them at all times, right? They're not going to be ready for any of that basic situation, let alone understanding other cultures, right? Like if you were taught only by these white parents that you had in this suburban fucking setting the entirety of your life, what's going to happen when it's time to learn from somebody who has a weird accent from India in college?
Right.
Are you ready to deal with that? 17-year-old homeschooled kid that only ever learned from hearing from one person that was teaching you in one singular fucking way. The only way that generally people know how is the one way that they know how to teach. It's the one way they know how to instruct and engage with the kids that are their own kids, which, by the way, you're going to go the extra mile if you are dedicated to your fucking children. But the guy at college does not give a fuck how you turn out or don't turn out. That's how college professors are. Yes, they're empathetic. Yes, they're sympathetic. And yes, they do actually care. But when it comes down to you're going to go to a fucking big college, these teachers have fucking, what, 600, 900, 1,200 kids that they're teaching?
Right.
They ain't got time for you, bitch. They aren't your fucking personal goddamn personal instructor.
If you see them at all. Mostly it's going to be TAs.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But like, these homeschool kids are not going to be prepared for the world. Period. End of story.
And even a side note, even if you, so I have a friend homeschooled all her life.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. What CEO is homeschooling their kids?
I'm going to guess absolutely none.
Yeah, I mean, like what super successful like businessman, like what's his name, Mark Cuban? Like, is Mark Cuban homeschooling his kids? Is Bill Gates homeschooling his kids? Is Elon Musk homeschooling his kids? Nope. Elon Musk built a school for his kids, by the way. He built a school with instructors at it.
He straps his children to himself with Teflon, but no.
No. He built a school for his kids.
No, I get it.
No. I don't think you understand. He built a whole fucking school for his kids.
So a whole school then.
Science teachers, math teachers, art teachers, PE teachers, all that shit. Right?
Yep.
So like
diversity.
Who is doing this behavior that is super successful?
Yeah, no one. I wasn't going to give an example of successfulness. I was going to say that even the people who think they're successful and then send their children out into the world in safe spaces. I have a friend, Christian homeschooled all her life. They put her on a Christian mission ship. This will be a great way to introduce her to the world. She'll go out and spread the word.
Right.
Guess who got molested by both the people in charge of the ship and other missionaries on the ship?
Okay, here, hold on. Calm yourself.
Yeah.
Here's the list.
Oh, all right.
Here's the list.
Give me the list.
The list of successful homeschool kids. Justin Bieber, who is clearly not homeschooled. He was private tutored.
Or successful. I mean, financially, I suppose.
You
But
think,
he's been a train wreck.
hold on a second. Do you want to say Justin Bieber isn't successful?
Not as a social human being or as a human being. Successful financially, sure, but has been
What
a
do you mean he's not
total train
successful
wreck.
as a human being? He's walking around, he's eating food, he's doing human things. What?
Been in and out of jail multiple times, drugs, the whole aspect, all the things that you called on a homeschooled kid, he has shown. Now, has he done it in a way that he also makes money? If that's our only bar, he makes money and is famous, then sure, he's successful. Is that our bar, or is being a decent, rounded human being the bar?
I don't.
Which bar?
Do you know who Justin Bieber is?
I do know
Okay.
who Justin Bieber
So-
is. Canadian child singing
Yeah.
sensation.
Yes, so
Come
you would
along
say
here.
he's probably successful. I mean, I don't understand like how. Okay, maybe you don't like Justin Bieber and you think he's a
No,
piece of
I
shit.
don't think-
Okay, like I get it.
don't think that he's
Hold
a
on.
piece of shit.
Hold on to your fucking horses here for a second.
I wish I had.
If we're gonna say
horses.
somebody is successful, we're not gonna start having these fucking whack ass debates about whether or not you like that person or not. The guy has fucking $200 million in the bank or whatever. He's obviously successful. You know who he is when I said his name.
Mm-hmm.
So out of all metrics of like success, like he's met them. So let's just calm down. Okay. Now, first off, I would say I don't think he's actually homeschooled because he's a child star. He has been private tutored his whole life, right?
Right.
Okay.
Difference.
Next person on the list, Serena Williams, who I would argue was not homeschooled, was actually private tutored her entire life because she was a tennis prodigy that ended up moving. Her dad moved them to be tennis people, right? Tim Tebow, who was obviously not homeschooled. He was probably homeschooled when he was little, but then went on to be a high school phenom, then went on to be a college football player, then one of the worst NFL players of all time. Obviously not actually homeschooled, just Bible studied, right?
Right.
Emma Watson, who I would also argue was not homeschooled. She was private tutored her entire life because she was goddamn Hermione Granger since she was, what, 10 or
10?
something? When did she start? Hold on. Emma
I think it was 10,
Watson.
maybe 12.
First acting shit. Oh my God! Hold on. What the fuck is this? Emma Watson's first acting role in was in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in 2001. Some critics said her performance was painful to watch. Others said she was okay for a first-time actress, but she tended to be snobby. All right. I don't get fucked. Whoever you fucking people are, you fucking freaks, you goddamn psychos. So some fans blame it that Emma received good reviews because she was a cute 10-year-old. So, some fans blame the directorial decisions for Watson's performance. Wait, so people have been like criticizing Emma Watson's 10-year-old acting as Hermione Granger? Has this been going on?
I guess I'd never heard it until now, but sure.
This is insane. I don't understand this. All you people go fucking actually I can't say it on the internet. Go jump in the river and fail to swim. There you go. In Minecraft.
That's right. Go on alive yourselves.
In Minecraft. No, you can't say that. Stop saying that. I'm gonna get banned. Go get fucked.
Can't say
Shut
that
up.
anymore, either.
I'm supposed to do something if you say something like that. Stop it. You fuck.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm saying go swimming in a cold river. Cold river.
Okay.
With ice flows. Lots of ice flows. Okay, so anyhow, so she's Hermione Granger when she was 10, okay? So like was she homeschooled till she was 10 and then obviously private tutored the rest of her life because she was in world famous Harry Potter movies? Yes, she was private tutored. Okay, next one. Simone Biles, who I would also argue has probably been private tutored because she's a goddamn gymnastics. She's a goddamn gymnastics phenom, winning gold medals everywhere. The rest of these, Dakota Fanning.
Same.
Starred in her First film role at age 5. Okay. Private tutored, not homeschooled. The Jonas Brothers. Private tutored, not homeschooled. Miley Cyrus? She might have been homeschooled, but...
She was doing Hannah Montana pretty early.
Oh, she was doing Hannah Montana. She was doing Hannah Montana, so not homeschooled, private tutored. Ryan Gosling. At 10 years old, Ryan Gosling still couldn't read. He was also often in trouble at schools, the victim of serious bullying, and was diagnosed with ADHD. He was also a bit of a troublemaker. Was he homeschooled? When was he homeschooled? Sounds like he was causing trouble in school.
Sounds like they pulled him out and then got him tutors rather than homeschooling him.
That sounds like the thing. Whoopi Goldberg was apparently homeschooled. So the best example of like a successful homeschool kid, all were private tutored except for likely Whoopi Goldberg, but I don't even want to go into it with Whoopi. Who cares? I'm just saying, like, there isn't an example of like, I mean, they have Andrew Jackson in here, which is not even relevant. Public school.
Everyone was homeschooled at Andrew Jackson's
I mean, public school didn't exist when Andrew Jackson was born. So what are we talking about? Like John Adams is on here. Like, what are we talking about? John Adams? Whoever wrote this list was fucking homeschooled. What a fucking retard. Get out of here. Fucking bullshit.
Laura Ingalls Wilder wasn't homeschooled. That's why she became a teacher.
That's right.
Joking.
Like Mike Rowe's parents. Anyhow, everyone get fucked. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.